So this is a continuation of my series of taking some of my teaching illustrations and making them available to a lot of people. Last night, I met with some of my beginning debaters. We do this every spring so that they can learn the basics and then they can start debate in the fall with foundation of knowledge already in place. And what we talked about last night, we talked about counterplans. And we talked about counterplan competition, and we developed this really pretty good little illustration for the difference between mutual exclusivity and net benefits and a way of understanding the issue of competition and not limiting it down to mutual exclusivity, which is what some people do because they mistakenly think of it as a higher standard of competition and that having a net beneficial counterplan is watering it down or lowering the bar. So it's my belief, and I've expressed this elsewhere, that there's really no such thing as a mutually exclusive counterplan. And because I've expressed that elsewhere, I'm going to leave my explanation of that to the end of the video, so those of you who've heard it before, when you've heard the illustration, you can turn the video off and go on with your lives. But here's the illustration. The resolution would be, resolved, I should do some house cleaning. And let's say that I was using this illustration with college students, so we assumed that the living space is an apartment and that they have a roommate. And the affirmative that they pick from all of their options under that topic is, I should run the vacuum cleaner in the living room. So I walked them back through the stock issues just for review because they're still beginners. What's the significance? Well, the living room carpet is dusty. How bad? Hasn't been vacuumed in a few weeks. It's looking pretty grimy. In some of the low traffic areas, there are even visible cobwebs. It really needs to be vacuumed. What's the harm? Well, it can stir up people's allergies, and that could lead to asthma attacks, even a trip to the emergency room. It could, if someone comes over and visits you and they see how dirty it is, they might develop a negative impression of you. Your roommate might resent the fact that you're not doing your share of the chores to keep the place livable. Inherency. If you're a college student, you probably don't have the money to have a cleaning person come in and vacuum your living room. And if you and your roommate have split the chores and you took vacuuming the common areas as your chore, then if you don't do it, it's not going to get done. And I actually offered that to them as kind of a one-sentence summary of inherency. If the plan doesn't do it, it's not going to get done. So the plan. You'll get out the vacuum cleaner, plug it in, turn it on. You'll use your vacuum cleaning skills. You won't skip any spots. Solvency. Will that take care of the living room carpet being dirty? It's not going to get it sterile. It's not going to be like a class 1 clean room or anything, but it's going to make it livable. It's going to be reasonably clean, and all of the harms you identified, you're probably going to reduce the risk down very, very low. So, in comes your roommate, sees that the vacuum cleaner is out and says, oh, wait, don't do that. I forgot to tell you, I've been meaning to tell you, that vacuum cleaner, my aunt donated it because she was getting a new one, and it's really, really old and decrepit, and she said that if you try to use it right now, it's just going to blow the dust all over the place. So what I've been meaning to do, and I'll do it right now, is I'm going to take the vacuum cleaner apart, I'm going to put in a new bag, I'm going to put in a new air filter, I'm going to replace the belt, I'm going to oil it, I'm going to do a little maintenance work on the engine, because, my grandma and grandpa used to have an appliance repair shop, and I would work there in the summers. I am going to service that vacuum cleaner to where it works really, really well. Now the plan was vacuum the carpet. The counter plan is dismantle the vacuum cleaner and service it so that it works better. What's the standard of competition that meets? Well, obviously it's mutually exclusive. Because your roommate can't dismantle the vacuum cleaner while you're using it. They'd probably lose some fingers in the process. And you can't run the vacuum cleaner if it's dismantled. So each policy makes the other one impossible. And is the counterplan better than the plan? Well, it's actually the best of all possible worlds as far as strategic counterplans because it has a net benefit that turns the case. Because part of your roommate's argument is if you run the vacuum cleaner right now, what it's going to do is just kick all the dust up into the air. So the allergy argument is turned because you'll be breathing the dust instead of it being in the carpet. The perception argument is turned because if your friends come over and see that you have a dust storm in your living room, they'll think, what in the world? And your roommate is far more likely to resent that as well. So that counterplan competes. But then what we did in order to talk about net benefits and how net benefits is a genuine standard of competition. Actually, we put one wrinkle in it just so that I could identify one of the ways of understanding counterplans that's really important to me that they get. A counterplan, and in particular a net beneficial counterplan, is a disadvantage with the uniqueness removed and replaced by a thought experiment. You're not saying, right now in the status quo things are fine, the affirmative interferes with that, therefore things get worse. You're saying, we have the potential to do something good. The affirmative interferes with that. Therefore, we wind up not getting the benefits of our potential move. So it's not that far removed from a disadvantage. And to illustrate that, I said, all right, let's pretend that you've got the vacuum cleaner out, you're about to start running it, and you see that your roommate is watching TV in the living room. And you can tell, you have a little chat with your roommate, and you find out that this is a TV show that's not going to be streamable on the internet. You don't have any friends who have TiVo. It's too late. You can't call them, get it TiVo. This is your roommate's one shot to see this, and it's a live broadcast. The two of you have a very good friend who is being given a Student of the Year, Citizen of the Year award, and it's being televised, and it's very important to you that you watch it on TV so you can share with your very good friend in the glory of that accomplishment. Now, we can argue this as a disadvantage. Uniqueness. Right now, the roommate is watching TV. Link, if you run the vacuum cleaner in the same room where the roommate is watching TV, you're going to spoil their enjoyment of the TV show. Impact. The first impact would be roommate backlash. Your roommate will be upset with you, and we had a pretty good time thinking of all the evil things that roommates can do when they go to war with each other. Your roommate will stuff contraband in your backpack. Your roommate will go out and commit a murder and make it look like you did it. And this is really just college students blowing off steam, and we had fun with that. But then the second impact is that you miss out. And you want to remember that it's perfectly good, dis-ed impact, to say something good will happen and you won't get it. So those were the impacts to the trade-off with watching TV disadvantage. But then I said, all right, hold it. What if you've got the vacuum cleaner out, it's plugged in, it's ready to go, and your roommate walks in and says, oh, I was going to watch TV, there's this TV show on. You could legitimately say, non-unique. TV's not on, you're not watching it, in the status quo, it's not happening. But then your roommate could say, don't run the vacuum now, sit down and watch TV with me for a few minutes. That's a counterplan. And now let's think about that counterplan. Watch TV instead of running the vacuum. Does it meet the test of mutual exclusivity? Absolutely not. You can have the TV on and be running the vacuum, and someone in the room can be watching TV and someone can be running the vacuum. You can even watch the TV while running the vacuum. You can turn the volume way up and try to hear it over the vacuum. But what's better? Watching TV with the vacuum off, or trying to do the two together, especially if it's some very, very special broadcast that you want to fully appreciate, some important event in the life of a very dear friend of yours, and if you have to strain to hear it over the racket being made by a vacuum cleaner, then you're going to lose a lot of the benefit. And I asked my beginning debaters, would you regard that as a compelling argument? Don't run the vacuum right now, let's watch TV instead. And they said yes. And I said, that is a net beneficial counterplan. You could do the two together, but you would lose the benefit. So, when you hear people say that counterplans have to be mutually exclusive, well, mutual exclusivity is only one way to pass the test of having a counterplan compete with the affirmative. The way it was explained to me millions of years ago was the competition is the reason the counterplan is a voting issue. Why, given the counterplan, is the plan a bad idea? A very good friend of mine, Todd Graham, who's the coach at Southern Illinois, I remember him repeating like a broken record years and years ago, the negative is never advocating their counterplan. They are never trying to get the judge to vote for their counterplan. Never, never, never. You are always trying to get the judge to vote against the plan. The negative's objective is never, come sit and watch TV with me. The negative's objective is always, don't run the vacuum right now. Okay, the last little bit that I'll tag on the end. Why I think there's no such thing as a mutually exclusive counterplan. Because everything we do in debate goes through a bureaucracy. So it's always a piece of legislation, a court order, a set of orders given to a division of troops. And those, history is full of examples of where contradictory laws have been passed, contradictory orders have been given to divisions of troops. It can happen. It always can happen. To say it's impossible is to misunderstand what's happening. When contradictory laws are passed, they create confusion, they create chaos, they are bad government. In other words, it's net beneficial not to have that happen. You could require something and ban something in two pieces of legislation passed at the very same moment, but that would be a bad outcome. You don't want to do it. It's undesirable to do it. And that's a net benefits standard of competition. So take these things and tuck them away and see if they don't make a little bit more sense of what you're doing when you're counterplanning and what the really critical question, the question of competition is. I hope it's clarified it a bit for you.